This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Victorious once again, the New York Yankees have won a series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays are trying to lose games. It's nice to tank. But they beat us in the first one. And at that point, I was like, well, you know what? Yankees have done a good job with the hard part. Now they're in the midst of some must-win series. And you must win this series. And they went out and did exactly that. So I'm not mad at them at all. You can't expect to sweep everybody going 7-1 against in your last 8 games against the Sox, Phils, and Jays, and including a home series win. That's impressive. Walk-off yesterday. Their worst regular player or semi-regular player. That's impressive. I mean, I'm not angry today. I got some stuff I'm mad about, but I'm not angry today. This was a must-win series. They would never have won this after dropping the first one just a couple of weeks ago. They certainly wouldn't have won it at home where they don't win anymore. And they really made Blue Jays manager John Schneider have to wear it and taste it yesterday by being aggressive in situations where he was passive and coming through with a clutch win when he made the wrong gut decision at the very end of the game. Do they have some problems? Absolutely. Were there moments we were angry? For sure. Was Trent Grisham involved? You know it. But we'll talk about the good, the bad, and how Gleyber Torres ended up on the bench over the course of this podcast. And I am joined. It's a Monday. It's 2 o'clock Eastern. We're always here Mondays at 2 o'clock Eastern, as well as Thursdays, same time. And by we, I mean me, Adam Weinrib, as well as Thomas Carannante, who's here as well. Thomas, series dub. It's that simple. For now, all you need to do is keep winning series.
Keep winning them. I love this current stretch. They don't need to blow me out of the water. They just can't keep fumbling over themselves. And I think ever since that series against the O's before the break, they've largely been good. Hard to complain about this. Are some problems, like we said, rotation a little bit iffy. We'll talk about that. 6-16 stretch at home after Friday's loss, the worst home stretch in Yankees history since 1917. Something crazy like that. I like how there's been some managerial shift in how Aaron Boone's controlling the team to an extent. I do still have some issues with it, believe it or not, but I think for the most part, things are coming together nicely. I would have liked a little bit more reinforcement at the deadline, but as long as they piece together what they have at this moment with intention and use these guys coming up from the minors, hopefully soon. We'll talk more about that as well. Again, hard to complain. Came through in a big moment yesterday, rebounded from a tough loss on Friday to capture the win on Saturday. Carlos Rodon looking good, even though the stat line wasn't all that impressive. Most importantly is that these guys just find their footing and keep pedal to the metal between now and the end of September, because the O's in striking, division's tied right now. O's are not overly impressing anybody. To be honest, their trade acquisitions don't look great at all.
Except for Eloy Jimenez for some reason. So there's that.
That'll dissipate, but I mean the pitching ones were more important for them. We know that. So you look at like Trevor Rogers is worse than Marcus Stroman this year. Like imagine trading 2 of your top prospects for Marcus Stroman. Just wouldn't do much for you. So there's a window, though the Yankees did not go for the jugular at the trade deadline. I really don't think any of their competitors did, and we're seeing that in post-deadline, post-All-Star break. Anthony Volpe's resurgence, we'll talk about that. But overall, what is this, 4 straight series wins? 3?
3. Because before Fenway, before Philly, before Toronto, it was the Mets. Just they're maybe the literal opposite of a series win. It's like if there was
we count a series as 2 games too. Like,
I mean, if you want to expand it to the full 4 games against the Mets, we lost all 4 of those.
Yeah.
So it's a series loss anyway you slice it. But series split with the Rays, complete embarrassment against the Mets, followed by improbable series win at Fenway, series sweep on the road in Philly, and then look, a nice little tidy series win that started off ugly. Yankees had a fake comeback on Friday night and then ended up with a pretty comfortable win on Saturday. All-time weird Carlos Rodon season continues. And then an exciting win on Sunday with a walk-off again from DJ LeMahieu, who's having a great week that has raised his overall season numbers to still very bad. But win's a win. And, you got a, tied game, bottom of the 10th. You got the ghost runner. Like, once Mark Leiter Jr. escapes that in the top of the inning, you got to win it, right? It's guaranteed. No, we've enough times that this team doesn't move the runner over. This team doesn't do all that fun stuff to catalyze a victory in extra innings all the time. It's far from guaranteed. Bases loaded, 1 out in the first inning. You knew they weren't scoring there, especially after Aaron Judge got ripped off by the home plate ump off the outside corner. So no guarantees, even with the runner on 3rd and 1 out. And LeMahieu at the plate, how many pop-ups have we seen? How many strikeouts have we seen? Swinging over that weird big Bowden Francis curveball. You never know. But I do want to give the Yankees credit, specifically to start with yesterday's game, for making sure John Schneider's wimpy strategy to intentionally walk Aaron Judge every time didn't pay off. Look, it's the right play. And Juan Soto said that as much. Hey, it's on the Yankees to make him pay. They haven't. They know that. But I want to get mad at nerds for a couple of seconds. Nerds have done a lot of great things for the sport of baseball, right? Player evaluation, predictive stats, honing in on areas that have yet to be exploited, or do an on-base percentage. A walk's really as good as a hit. A lot of surplus value has been created by great nerds. So I would like to induct those nerds into the Nerd Hall of Fame. That said, one way in which nerds have ruined baseball competition and sporting competition in general is that the most fun part of sports used to be my best against your best. On any given day, my best might be Yariel Rodriguez. If I'm John Schneider, he's my starting pitcher. And the Yankees' best is Aaron Judge. So you can nibble, you can walk a batter, but typically that would be a consequence of trying your hardest and failing, right? It was like Judge was stronger than the pitcher, therefore Yankees came out on top. If you really wanted to be, in the old days, it would be viewed as quite wimpy to walk him repeatedly so that you did not have to face him. Nowadays, still wimpy, but viewed as statistically the correct decision, because you're upping your probability of escaping without a run scored by moving Judge to first base, not even attempting to face him. And I get it. It's correct. Soto said it. Hey, they're just trying to win. It sucks, but they're trying to win. That's how I feel too. They're trying to win. I know why they're doing it, but it sucks. And I just put the other nerds into the Nerd Hall of Fame so that I could talk down to the nerds who made it sort of the accepted reality that, hey, if you have a challenging hitter in the opposing lineup and the rest of the lineup's a little bit softer, the best move and the accepted move and the applauded move is to avoid the challenge. Just pitch around him. Don't even try. Why try? The people are, it sort of takes away sport as spectacle. Right. And just sort of like sport is this equation where you're trying to get to the end and maximize the probability of success at every turn. But that's not why the fans are there. The fans are like, not that you need to cater to fans and do fan service, but I do think in a way baseball was better in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s when you were less likely to see a team until Barry Bonds emerged as just this absurd world exploding threat. You did not see this rampant intentional walking. You did not see how often did they intentionally walk McGuire and Sosa that summer. I mean, all the college football fans 2 years ago were introduced to the Aaron Judge walk gate when we kept cutting in during his home run pursuit, and they would see Brad Bergeson of the Orioles just throw 4 sloppy sliders low and away in the outside corner in the dirt off the outside of the plate. That was worse than this, I think, but they're both close. So look, John Schneider took the way that I don't blame him for taking at all, but I'm annoyed that I'm criticizing him, and I feel like most shows would be criticizing him 20 years ago, but now most shows are like, good job, make the other hitters beat you. Yeah, smart. It's like, it is smart, but it's also very frustrating to watch, and it's annoying that this is the accepted norm now. So anyway, intentionally walked Judge 3 straight times after his first 2 at-bats yesterday, and guess what? Automatic ghost runner on second in the 10th. Mark Leiter Jr. on the mound, who Aaron Boone and manager Brad Ausmus, who was managing at that point, are threatening to Scott Proctor and Tanyan Sturt's Mark Leiter Jr. We just got him, and he's appeared in 4 of 5 games since he showed up. Not my favorite. Got to figure that out.
Don't like it.
The bullpen soaking in so many innings at this point. But ghost runners on second, the speedy Loperfido. Vlad Jr.'s at the plate hitting 700 against the Yankees in this series. Loperfido could score on any single. So ground ball up the middle, line drive to right. I mean, the run scoring, the Jays are taking the lead. So you're taking there's really no reason in this current reality to pitch to Vlad Jr. with a base open behind Loperfido and nobody out. Why do it? Why risk it? Bring some double play threats up. Bring Alejandro Kirk up. Leiter Jr. attacks him. Is that a Brad Ausmus decision? I don't know. I don't know who's calling the shots at that point, but splitter strike 1, splitter strike 2, soft fly out to center, doesn't advance the runner. So the Jays don't attack Judge. The Yankees do attack Guerrero Jr. It ultimately results in a scoreless top of the 10th. Alejandro Kirk whiffs to end the frame, go to the bottom of the inning. Runner moved to third on the Grisham bunt. Schneider brings a 5-man infield in. Ausmus calls out that you got to declare a side for the 5th infielder. He can't just go up the middle. That's a rule. We've outlawed the shift. He can't go there. The umpires, who've been terrible all weekend, get together and go, oh, yeah, right. They do know the rule book and we don't. Let's talk this out. They go to John Schneider and they say, yeah, you got to declare a side. He declares the right side. LeMahieu shoots a single through the slight hole on the left
side.
The other side, you could have put him there. You didn't. So your gut maybe needed a gut check. Nice to see Schneider have to make a tough decision. In the moment, 50-50 coin flip. You picked wrong. Oops. And so fortune favors the bold. The Yankees got rewarded for going after Vladdy and knowing the rule book, maybe better than the umpiring crew.
Yeah.
2 little slaps in the face at John Schneider, who will always be, I mean, I can't pick a least favorite manager between him and Cora. Like, they're both here. I think Cora's probably going to be here longer because I don't know if Schneider even survives this season. But for now, they're both tied, jockeying for position. Cora telling Yankees to suck on it after winning the World Series. Schneider calling someone in the dugout fat boy and moving his yelling about the positioning of the third base coach. I hate them both. It's always nice to get one over on either of them. And Schneider got yesterday. It felt awesome.
I will rip Schneider in a later segment here, but he's definitely my least favorite of the two because at least Alex Cora is good and has a way to back up his trash talk.
He does appear to be good. Yeah. Yeah.
And John Schneider has no leg to stand on from his run of what it's been 2.5. He took over 2 years ago in the middle of the season. Last year was his first full year. And then this year, I mean, yeah, I don't know if he survives the season. I will say, though, I can't rip him for the Judge decision. It sucks for the fans in attendance. You know, you're going to the game, you're spending money on a weekend game, taking the kids, taking the family, whatever.
Seeing the Blue Jays. I mean, I don't know why you're doing that, but okay.
To see Aaron Judge knock one out, and he did it in the first 2 games. But I'm begging for this every time the Yankees face Rafael Devers, and I don't care if the fans are deprived of performance. If somebody's ripping you to shreds and that's the only strategy you have at that point, you got to do it and make the other hitters pay. Juan Soto's right. If this became a bigger problem in terms of it happening multiple times a week, maybe we'd have a conversation about, all right, let's dial it back. Like, it's getting Bonds-esque here. We don't need that. But this happened one day out of the 3-game series, and Judge killed them in the first 2 games. So can't really fault him for doing it. And again, if he's putting his team in the best position to win, like, I'd be a hypocrite if I was sitting here calling this guy, you know, whatever name in the book you want to call him for intentionally walking the other team's best hitter. But I wish the Yankees would just say Rafael Devers, first base. Don't care if the bases are loaded. Don't care if the bases are empty. Like, I literally don't care. I'm sick of
everybody else. If everybody else is going to do it, then yeah, we absolutely should.
Yeah, and I'm sure they are sick of facing Aaron Judge. But yeah, you at that point, if you're going to walk Aaron Judge 3 times intentionally, you better make sure you're going to win the game. You better make sure your hitters can get the best of the Yankees bullpen, which seemed a bit weak after those first 2 games of the series, but they couldn't. Yankees win the series, and it goes back to Friday. I guess we got to go all the way back to Friday when things were bad. And I guess that's when we can probably get into our Marcus Stroman conversation. Big issue right now. He is at least optimistic and well-spoken in these post games, so I am not overly concerned. When you have someone like Garrett Cole being asked a question and he pauses for 20 seconds at the top of that question, that's when I start getting concerned. I'm like, do you even know what's going on? Can you speak? This is English. Please weigh in. For Stroman, he's very open about his struggles. He's very open about going through these types of stretches in seasons. We also have talked about the track record with him. Yearly downturn in the second half. It's annual. It's part of his career. It is what it is. It's like akin to Brian Cashman saying, well, I guess injuries are part of Giancarlo Stanton's game. Not the right way to say it, but the reality is Giancarlo Stanton's getting injured once a year. It's going to cost him 6 to 8 weeks. Marcus Stroman is going to go through a terrible stretch in the second half once a year. Don't know when it is. He's going to have to figure it out. You do dig a little bit deeper, though. I am a tad concerned because now this has extended over about 2 months now, I'd say, when you look at the general stats. So the first one that's alarming to me, has not completed 7 innings since May 31st. That's 10 weeks ago. That's 9-10 weeks ago. That's a really long time. Has not logged a quality start since June 22nd. That's 5-6 weeks ago. That's a really long time. Has only pitched beyond 5 innings once since June 28th. That's over a month now. That's a really long time. Against his former team, whom we thought would have that, extra edge and energy factor. You can't go 2 1/3, give up 7 earned runs on 8 hits and a walk, especially at home. I know what's happening. You look at the start before, 3 1/3, 3 earned runs, 9 hits, not good. His best start since June 22nd was against the Rays in a 5 1/3 inning outing. 3 runs, 2 earned, 5 hits, 0 walks. Yankees lost the game anyway. So this was somebody we were relying upon to give us a full body of work in 2024, given the concerns about the pitching staff and also the fact that the Yankees were largely unable to supplement the rotation. They were trying to get Blake Snell. It didn't work out. They were exploring the trade market. The values didn't line up, as our friend Brian Cashman would say. So they went for Stroman. We thought it was a good deal. We were hesitant at first because of the trash talking that went back and forth between the two parties over the years, but they got him on a good deal. Though I will say it is now perilous territory. 4.10 ERA, 5.17 FIP. Length is a concern. Walks are a concern. Hits are now a concern, which is usually where he's kind of been good. So it is an issue. I don't know how you feel about it. I think this is the pinnacle. I think from this point, we're only going to be able to improve in terms of Stroman's abilities. So that's where we're at. It's a legitimate thing to, I think, talk about, but I'm not going to be calling him out. I'm not really going to be. This is, again, something we signed up for, right? If you didn't realize this when the Yankees made this signing in the offseason, then you weren't paying close enough attention. Now it's coming to a head. Now we have to acknowledge that this is part of what the deal is.
Well, there's going to be another consequence too, because there's going to be a vesting option that will keep him on.
He's going to hit that, right?
Yeah, he's absolutely going to hit that. He's going to hit that in a couple of days.
Wait, it's for this season? I thought it was cumulatively over 2 years.
Oh, wait a minute. No, okay. So there was a bad tweet. There was a bad tweet about this.
Bad tweet.
There was a bad tweet about this. It only triggers if he throws 140 innings next year.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was 140 in both years. It's just next year.
Well, it might be both years, but it's certainly not. There was somebody that implied that if he threw 140 this year, it would vest for 2026.
That would be crazy.
And that does not appear to be true. So there is a vesting option.
Thanks, Elon.
He's going to pass it this year. Thanks so much. You had no police on Twitter. This is getting embarrassing. Well, he's going to pass it this year no matter what. But either way, Stroman, 33 years old. You say good value. You get him through his age 33, 34 season. Yeah. And if he's durable in his age 34 season, you keep him through his age 35 season. That's fine. You're not taking him. It's not prohibitively expensive every year. It's a minor commitment. At worst, it's 2 seasons from now. However, he averaged 88.8 miles an hour on his 4-seam fastball on Friday night against the Jays. That's the lowest average 4-seam velocity in a single start of his entire career. His 12 lowest average four-seam velocities of his entire career have been this season, 6 of them since the start of June. That is aging. That is fatigue. That is potentially hiding an injury because Marcus Stroman gets injured almost every single year and has to miss time. Is it a huge deal if one of your 5 starters, presumptive playoff starters, has to miss the month of August or the month of July? No, it's fine. It happens. If you need to manage somebody's ability to meaningfully contribute by placing them on the injured list so that they can rehab, recuperate,
Yankees move,
return when it matters, I mean, that is fine. But that's, like you said, Stanton's career, you bake in an injury. Stroman's career has been one where you kind of have to bake in an injury absence during a season as well.
Yep.
Wouldn't be an issue at all if they weren't also welcoming Garrett Cole back to the rotation with odd reined in and then fully allowed to do his thing and then reined in again with general body fatigue. It wouldn't be an issue if Clark Schmidt wasn't coming back from the injured list at all. And it certainly wouldn't be an issue if they decided to add pitching at the trade deadline. Take a risk on someone like Jack Flaherty, whose back medicals reportedly scared them away, even though all it took was a couple of lower level prospects to obtain Flaherty. I don't know where the matchup between the Yankee system and the Tigers' needs was, but if they took the package they did from the Dodgers, then surely the Yankees had some way to compensate there fairly and find a match at the lower levels. For me, already on record last week saying, I respect Cashman for avoiding a potential Frankie Montas disaster, but there are a million ways where the two packages were not similar and it was not an equivalent commitment, what have you. I would have made the Flaherty deal anyway. And after seeing Stroman's decline continue post-Flaherty, it's only more glaring that they didn't reinforce that area of the roster at the deadline, given their current dire straits in the pitching department. Cole found a groove yesterday, but still a lot of hard hit there. Camera still caught him grimacing, grabbing something on his shoulder, trapezius, I don't know.
Trapezius maximus, yeah.
In the first inning, could have been a trapezius maximus thing. Maybe he was at Muscle Beach. He flew in for the start. A little sore, I don't know. But either way, I mean, they could use an extra pitcher, and instead they just have Clark Schmidt and Cody Poteet coming back at some point. Cody Poteet's on the 60-day IL, even though I was told at some point it was like a 10-day no-throw for him. It's obviously a procedural move at this point because he's already missed many days. But, the 12th in Kansas City, the last Cody Poteet start. I miss him. I like that guy. They could use some meaningful quality depth, and they sort of passed on some at the deadline, and they also passed on the chance to give Stroman some real rest midseason.
Yeah, I hope that passing on another starter at the deadline isn't going to kill them. What's the deal with Clark Schmidt? Like, that's just end of August. That's what we're looking at. I mean, there's been very few updates on that front.
Hasn't made a rehab. I mean, got to make several rehab appearances before he's active, and it's August 5th. So,
I mean, look, luckily, Carlos Rodon seems to have found it over the last 3 outings, which is great.
And what the hell is that, by the way? Like, what is this season for Carlos Rodon?
Yeah.
It was like 5 straight starts where he was getting ambushed by 5 runs in the first inning before recording an out, and then mixing things up and going away from his fastball and finding more success and doing post-game quotes where he's like, yeah, I just got to, I guess, change things up, figure it out. And everyone's like, you figured it out already in innings 2 through 6. What is going on? And then all of a sudden, dominant at Fenway, dominant against the Rays, dominant against the Jays, 3 in a row where he's just sort of like no nonsense, settling down, giving the Yankees the best turn through the rotation of anybody, him and Beal.
Extremely refreshing because the Yankees have the 22nd best record of any team against divisional opponents. So if Carlos Rodon's contribution is going to be rediscovering his groove against the teams we need to beat, great. Positive.
Well, this is now massive. Do you want to pause the podcast to throw a little parade? Because this is huge.
Yeah.
The New York Yankees will finish the season with winning records against the Rays and Jays.
That's crazy.
7-6 against both of them. Good for the Yankees, who have been underwater against every AL East opponent all year. They will officially wrap their seasons against those two teams with 7-6 records. Those are, of course, the 4th and 5th place teams in the American League East right now. But one more win for us. We're still underwater slightly against Baltimore and Boston.
Baltimore, I don't see us making up ground there.
No.
I will still take 7-6 against these teams. These are talented teams. I know they have their problems. I know they're not the greatest this year, but deepest division in baseball by far. If one of these teams is in another division, I think we're talking about them being more entrenched in the wild card based on having lesser competition within the division and just a clearer path. So I'll pat the Yankees on the back for that. And thanks for Rodon for rebounding when we needed him most. I'm glad he figured it out somewhat. I know we were kind of baffled with those post-game quotes when the first inning issues were going on. And it was like, oh yeah, I noticed I had to mix it up a little bit more. And it was like, didn't you already know that? Feels like you should already know that. You should have, that should have been part of your strategy to begin with, especially when you realize that a lot of these teams in scouting the Yankees, don't know if you guys have noticed, but first inning, they're going after pitches they like. They have the scouting report on what the pitchers like to throw the most, and they're figuring out a way to get on base quickly or put one over the fence quickly. So the Yankees need to combat that. And the fact that there was even that long of a lull, what was it, 3 straight starts where it was like, what is happening? You got to figure that out after the first one. But again, better late than never. Liking what I'm seeing out of mostly everybody here. I'm glad that they did the best of their ability to pick Stroman up on Friday. Almost got there, didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Rebounded nicely over the weekend. So again, all we really want from this team, right, is the smartest decision making that they could possibly have. Every decision is not going to be right, but at least have some sort of smart philosophy or strategic nature behind it. And 2, fight back a little bit. Let's see some responses. I'm totally fine with losing the first game of the series. Are you going to punch back on Saturday and Sunday or in games 2 or 3? If you're not, you've wasted my time and now I'm angry. If you do, and one of them results in a losing effort, that's okay. But a lot of what we've seen is the Yankees lying down, the Yankees being uncompetitive, the Yankees making fundamental error after fundamental error, and then it leads to the fan base spiraling. But I think even if they lost yesterday, there would still be a little bit of a positivity after how they handled those next 2 games.
Yeah.
You know, got their legs cut off for the moment with having Judge walk 3 times. So yeah, I mean, and you go back to what, Friday? Should we get into Glaber benching right now before we go over the full what made us happy and angriest over the series? I think.
Yeah. Let's do Glaber. Let's do Glaber benching because I just wanted to do the happiest highlight and angriest highlight, and then we'll sign off and we'll see everybody on Thursday. But the Glaber benching is sort of a momentous moment, but also sort of a nothing, just like a poof of smoke in the air. I think it was good for many reasons, and ultimately I come down on the side of I'm glad Aaron Boone did it, and I'm glad we saw it, but for a reason that people might not be expecting, because I think it did maybe teach the uncles out there that there isn't just this magic managing formula, and that like Aaron Boone can't turn on a dime and produce, these Earl Weaver moments. Like, I don't know, just the idea that he can. So he pulls Glaber from Friday's game, and I think he was right to do so. And I think the best part about it is it caught Glaber off guard, because you could see him in the dugout saying, I'm going to have to play you. And Glaber just kind of being like, excuse me? Like, I thought we didn't do this here. There are consequences. You just tell he was like, you have to? You have to pull me now? Because why? Did you read on Twitter? He dogged it out of the box objectively, watched a hard fly ball down the left field line that looked like it might have been a home run, but honestly, off the bat, I thought it was going to be a double, and then it did hit off the wall, and then he was stuck at first base. Then he tried to score from first on a double down the line, and if he's on second, he scores. I still don't know how he didn't score from first. Ball was rolling around the left field corner for a while. Like, I don't know how the Blue Jays executed that. He should have still scored. It should have been a non-factor, but he didn't. Getting thrown out makes it 10 times worse. And so Aaron Boone lets him play defense and then yanks him because he doesn't want the theatricality of pulling him off the field. I say I approve that. You don't need to like literally pull his pants down and put a big scoreboard graphic like Glaber's getting benched, like with that kid raising the roof or whatever. Like
like happy birthday to John and family. Thanks for coming. Glaber Torres benched.
Yeah, and while you're watching this 65th wedding anniversary, Glaber Torres is being pulled off the field and escorted out by stadium security. So yeah, they yank him, and I think they did it right. But did the Yankees win Saturday and Sunday? A squeaker on Sunday and sort of this nice, emphatic, a 5-run game. It was never a blowout, and the bases were loaded for Clay Holmes in the 9th. But did they win those games because Gleyber Torres was pulled? I doubt it. I think, I was trying to avoid the theatricality of yanking him off the field. I mean, it was all theatrical anyway, because we have years of evidence that Aaron Boone doesn't do this, and we know they're still pals. We know Boone hated doing it, and he was right back in there the next day, and he was leading off on Sunday, and it sparked very little from Torres, who was pretty bad in these 2 games. So I'm glad he did it. It's what a manager should do. And I'm also glad that it didn't magically wake Torres up and give all the uncles reason to believe that we missed out on 6 years of this being a be-all end-all strategy. Oh, we would have won the 2018 ALDS. I mean, freaking bench Gleyber then. It's okay, it's obviously not just a magic bean. It did not fix this team overnight, but all things considered, I think the right call.
I think the right call. I think long overdue. I think there have been much more glaring offenses from Gleyber Torres and even from other players. I'd be benching Alex Verdugo's ass 3 times over the last month.
And I thought they were benching him yesterday, and that was sick briefly. And then Aaron Boone came out and was like, he's a little beat up. He's scuffed. He got nicked. And it's okay. Can we put him on the IL if he's so hurt that he can't play? How about that?
Yeah. I like that. I like that it happened. Again, if it was just theatrics, then guess what? You did the job. You're controlling the narrative. You're giving the fans something to say, you know what? This is what we've been asking for. How hard is that? All it takes for the Yankees to be successful, really, in the eyes of the fans, is for Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone to have a 15-minute meeting every day, to go on Twitter and to say, all right, what are the fans talking about? How can we quiet this conversation? All right, Booney, you got to bench one guy who does something stupid tonight. All right, Cashman, you got to make it's time to make a roster move with intention this month. So figure it out and people will stop talking. I truly believe that would improve the Yankees immensely. But what actually got me a bit going about this was Laura Albanese of Newsday, after this game, wrote an article kind of criticizing the benching after everybody had talked in the postgame. And I didn't read the article, but this one quote, or this one aspect of it summarizing the whole thing, is, quote, "It's not that Aaron Boone should have benched Torres. It was more that Boone seemed ill-equipped to be the authority figure in this particular situation." And I actually agreed with that, because there was no assertive nature in the dugout. It was just it happened, and Gleyber found out and then went to Aaron Boone, and then Aaron Boone was just yeah, I'm doing this. It should have been on some level. And obviously, as you can tell from the postgame and from that moment, Aaron Boone does not do this, because he had no definitive way of going about it. It just, he said, he's I felt I had to do it in the moment and I did it. And it's yeah, you did. And it happened, and it definitely had some meaning. And hopefully it's going to hold some people accountable, especially Gleyber Torres. But it kind of didn't feel like you were actually doing it with intent. It felt like you probably reached a point internally after seeing this happen so many times, and you didn't really know how to act and actually execute it, which I thought was the case, because after the game, he didn't really have an explanation. He was just I just felt that was the time. And then people are well, what about all the other times? And he's I just felt this was the time. And like I said before, there were a million other offenses from Gleyber Torres, from other players on this team, whether you want to talk about Trent Grisham bobbling the ball in that game against the Reds, whether you want to talk about DJ LeMahieu stabbing out a ball against the Mets that rolled into the outfield, whether you want to talk about Alex Verdugo making that error in Baltimore.
I always do.
Oh, you always want to, there's a million other things that we could talk about. It's not just Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres is the easy scapegoat, because he's one of the longest tenured Yankees. And usually when that's the case, you're sitting there and you're this is unacceptable. You've been here just as long as Aaron Judge has been here. This is your captain. It's almost like respect on a player-to-player level, right? Judge should be saying something to Gleyber too. Be man, what are you doing? This is terrible reflection on me, terrible reflection on the team. You're putting our manager in a tough spot. In my opinion, it's too late. Should have been a larger conversation years ago. Nonetheless, it's done, but I do resonate with the fact that it does seem like Boone is it's always felt like he's been ill-equipped because he's never really made those decisions. And then when you saw the decision in action, you were like applauding it, but you were like, man, I wanted to see like Boone walk up to him and be like, you're out of this game. What you did out there, absolutely not. We'll see you tomorrow, maybe. We'll figure it out. But and then, the lighthearted stuff and he's like, these guys are busting their tail. You guys don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And it's like, of course we don't. But also, just because someone's having a tough time behind closed doors doesn't mean they get a pass for not doing their job properly, or because they are exhibiting poor body language. Like, that's still, discipline is on the table for all of that. In any walk of life. You've gotten in trouble in school before, right? You're probably going through a tough time. You hit puberty, things are going crazy for you. You're acting out left and right. That's still not an excuse to act out. You got to know when you're misbehaving, or when you're sending the wrong message, or when you're making the situation difficult for other people around you. So,
there was nothing worse than consequences to your actions. Like, you learn that at a young age, though. I was acting out in class once and yelling and screaming, and the teacher's like, you go to the principal. And I was like, what? No, me? I don't want to. And it was like, all right. I mean, like, you have to, though.
In class and get in trouble.
You were disruptive and screaming. Like, what do you want me to do? Okay, yeah, no, keep doing it. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Like, no, get out of here. And so what's going on behind closed doors? I mean, yeah, you're right. We don't know, but these guys are busting their ass. Not in this specific instance. You pulled him from the game.
Yep. And he should look. There's many more instances where Boone can rule with an iron fist. I don't understand why he doesn't. I don't know. That's the other thing too with the player-manager dynamic. I know the manager in at least the modern day, it's a lot of buddy friends with the players, but there's a respect element to it, right? Aaron Boone was a professional baseball player for a long time. Now he's in a managerial situation. Like, being assertive would earn the respect of, star caliber major league players, in my opinion. I don't know why it's not enforced a little bit more. I don't know why there is, like, to me, the way that the Yankees kind of orchestrated the collection of their bench in the first half just spoke to, Aaron Boone doesn't have to make any tough decisions. He's got to play the better guys. All the guys are better that are starters, like, far and away than anybody on the bench. And then that would put him in a bad spot if he actually had to bench a Gleyber Torres, or discipline an Alex Verdugo, or discipline DJ LeMahieu, or sit a slumping Anthony Volpe, or whatever you want to concoct. There was an 11-24 stretch. Worst in MLB. If the White Sox didn't exist, that's the worst in Major League Baseball, and the White Sox are on track to be the worst team in Major League Baseball history. So there's some perspective for you. There was a lot of ways Aaron Boone could have been assertive, made tough decisions, put players in their place over a very poor stretch of baseball that wasn't just affected by injuries. Yes, Giancarlo Stanton was out. It affected the complexion of the lineup without a doubt. There was also inexplicable slumping from a number of players. There was also an inexplicable show of lackadaisical nature that should have been the defensive miscues, head not in the game, like base running mistakes. We see all of it. And that's the thing. A lot of the fans are very dialed in to the point where they also know what's going on. So that's why when Aaron Boone does these post gamers and he tries to tell us, oh, well, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And it's like, that's fine, but we see what's going on in front of us. So then what's the recourse for that? This was a step in the right direction. I don't know if it's going to light a fire under the team, but I hope it at least is setting the tone for what's to come in the second half. No more of this bullshit. Aaron Boone's going to make a decision on you, and it could affect you negatively if you decide to not play the game the right way. So all we ask is for a little bit. We're not asking for Aaron Boone to walk through that dugout and start smashing coolers with bats or sending players to the showers. We're not looking for that. We're just looking for a little bit of action and discipline and proactivity and getting ahead of these things. And I think getting ahead of the Gleyber thing in that third inning, very shocking, especially after he went back out and played defense. He did a good job with it, but it did still seem like, what's going on here? I don't know. Either way, moving forward, I like it.
And I think very tellingly, look, we know that Gleyber is sort of the least favorite of the current Yankees management. They tried to trade him in 2022, almost did, couldn't. Chris Kirschner yesterday during the rain delay, I was responding to fan questions. Somebody asked who are the most likely and least likely of the free agents to return and to, most likely and least likely to return. They said Soto had the best chance of coming back. And I don't even know if that's a commentary on Soto, because the other free agents of note are Holmes, Verdugo, and Glaber. I would say all of those three people are not coming back to the New York Yankees. But he said least likely to return was Torres, which I am not around the team every day. I would say Verdugo, least likely to return by far. Very low chance of any of Holmes, Verdugo, or Torres getting another chance. But Glaber getting a 2-year, $35 million contract feels more likely to me than Verdugo getting even a phone call.
Yeah.
So to hear that Torres is less likely to come back than Verdugo telegraphs how the Yankees feel right now, or how they gauge his value on the market. Either way, these are his final 2 months in pinstripes. And they've made it very clear that if they need to discipline somebody, they're going to discipline him. I think there have been some unfair calls in recent weeks. People way too much. People calling for DJ LeMahieu to be DFA'd and the money on his contract to be eaten when he was injured all year. He's coming back, recovering from the foot injury. And he was a borderline average hitter the last couple seasons when healthy, 96 and 97 OPS pluses. So not a star, not someone who's living up to the contract, but should definitely be on your bench instead of Jahmai Jones. And the last couple of weeks have proven that they handled the DJ LeMahieu situation perfectly. They started removing playing time. He's not a starter. And looky here, he's delivering and his teammates love him and are standing by him. So the fracture in the clubhouse you would get from DFAing DJ LeMahieu, who's been an average player in the big leagues at worst up until this season, just because you remember Josh Donaldson and you wanted to DFA him and his 2 months left, and now you want to do the same to LeMahieu and his 2+ years left. I think that was absurd. And I think the recent returns on LeMahieu have proven that this is what they should have done. He can't be starting. He can't be logging as many reps as he was getting, and now he's not. And now he's playing better, and maybe it lasts and maybe it doesn't. But either way, I think he belongs on your bench.
Yeah. Last guy on the bench. In my angriest, I might have said he needs to be DFA'd, and that was probably because in deep down, I was like, they're not gonna not start him. They're just gonna keep playing him every day, and they're gonna hope he breaks out of this. And there is zero indication that he's gonna break out of this. So I was like, the only way, in my opinion, outside of doing what they're not going to do in terms of making him the last guy on the bench and some sort of versatile defensive replacement guy who faces lefties, is to just rip the Band-Aid off. Hasn't been healthy in 5 years, 4.5 years. Like, how much longer are you going to try this? But I agree. I think they handled it right. They probably had a productive conversation. Too little, too late, again, in my opinion. Like, this should have been maybe had last year when the warning signs were there and his power was getting sapped and his athleticism was declining at a rapid rate. But they're better off for it now, and I hope that he can come through in these moments because he does have the clutch gene. We've seen it. We saw it in 2019 to 2020 without fail, and he had his moments over the last few years when he was actually on the field. Like, again, if he could just produce like right around league average, a little bit below it, that's going to be fine. Just don't make any backbreaking defensive plays. And you're right. I think getting rid of him would have sent, shockwaves throughout the clubhouse in a negative manner. So another well-handled situation by Boone. I think another well-handled situation is moving Anthony Volpe out of the leadoff spot and not being convinced to move him back, at least right now, because he's performing well. Guy's not a leadoff hitter right now. Will he be in the future? I don't know. I don't think so, but you got him out of the leadoff spot after 76 games. Could we sit here and argue that that was too long to wait? Sure, but remember, Volpe was actually good in that role for about a month, and then he completely fell off the face of the earth for 40-plus games. So you had to give him the chance to maybe work through that. They reached the point of no return. I do agree that the Yankees probably wait a little bit longer than you would like because they think they're talented enough to get through it. Either way, I think the productive decisions and the harder decisions are being made at this point, crucial juncture of the season. So you now have 2 months to like really get everything together and figure out where you're at. So that gets a little bit of a round of applause from me.
The Yankees do wait too long to do these things because I think they know how long the regular season is and they have this perspective. And look, things turned around at Fenway Park last weekend, just like they said they would. Like, it's ridiculous, but it happened. It also happened when Jazz Chisholm arrived. So they knew if things turn around the trade deadline, we'll be fine. Well, we could be 21 games over 500 in early August. Then we can go into this relatively soft schedule and try to take care of business. Fans don't have that same patience. And I think rightfully so, because this team hasn't won a World Series since 2009. So there's validity to both. The Yankees were right that they did not have to be lighting the world on fire in July, as long as they were prepared to turn this corner in August. Then okay, fine, sue me. But there were things on the field that needed to be addressed. And there's a difference between not lighting the world on fire and going 10 and goddamn 23. So I think fans were justified in their anger. Turns out the team was also somewhat justified because they knew what was brewing at the deadline and they were able to execute on most of their vision. Congrats to them. We feel a lot better about them in August than we did in July, but the job isn't even close to finished. And I'm not going to give this team full credit until they show me what they're made of in October. But, brief dance through moment I was happiest, moment I was angriest in this series. Angriest, Trent Grisham cutting in front of Aaron Judge. What are you doing? Or Brian Serven hitting a bases loaded 2-run single on Friday night to pretty much put that game out of reach. But you tied into the moment I was happiest. So Anthony Volpe's home run on Saturday, 11 homers for number 11, who won't tangibly talk about changes he made to his swing between now and the break, but also he's been one of the best hitters in baseball since the break, since the moment that we said right before the break, he made that catastrophic error that would have ended the Orioles game. We basically said, not a cornerstone player right now. How many shortstops would you take him over? You can count to like 20 and you'd be like, I don't know. It's down to like him or Zach Neto. Like, who do I want? You're right in that middle tier and he's supposed to be a star. And he's not not only is he not in the Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt Jr. conversation, but he's stuck with a bunch of guys who at the beginning of the year, you would have been like, Volpe, no question. Volpe, no question. And then it was like, all right, I'm running out of patience with this. One of the best players, at his position by far since the break. And then overall in Major League Baseball for the season, who knows? Things might have been much, much better if they had, planned better and moved him off the leadoff spot sooner. Who knows? But either way, 3.6 WAR, 20th in baseball, according to Fangraphs, on the season overall. Top 20 player in baseball with an overall season where you would say questionable for about 2+ months. You'll take that. It's something to build on. It's not what we wanted to see. A lot of its defensive value and a lot of it offensively was accrued long before this recent stretch. Like, there was a gap where WAR was not being built. But overall, happy to see the power return. Happy to see the pull side potency return. Looks like a different player after the break, no matter what he wants to tell me about what he has or has not changed.
I agree. Look, I like Anthony Volpe a lot. Was very critical during that poor stretch because, the stats normalized or not normalized. They regressed back to where they were at the end of last year. And if you're looking at franchise cornerstone shortstop, those numbers don't cut it. Even if the defense is above average, it just doesn't. You can't be OPSing in the 600s. It's especially in a lineup where you're surrounded by these other star-studded players. And I understand being in the leadoff spot affected that a lot. I think Anthony Volpe is a very good baseball player. I think that the Yankees need to continue to be careful with his growth. He can't be thrown into the fire with two things like that, right? Taking over the starting shortstop position on any team is very difficult. To do it for the New York Yankees, as everybody knows, extremely difficult. To compound that with being the team's leadoff hitter, it's too much for a 22-year-old. You can't do it. Bad on the Yankees for trying it. Now, hopefully, Volpe can find it and normalize the production and get to where he needs to be as a player. I like him a lot, but, our job's to be critical when stuff comes to a head, and that came to a head. But my happiest moment has nothing to do with the Yankees, even though, quickly, honorable mention, the Jazz Chisholm Anthony Volpe double steal, sack, RBI ground out, sack fly, fucking every day of the week. Every day of the week, do that once, and nobody will ever complain again. My happiest moment was John Schneider being an idiot. John Schneider makes Aaron Boone look like Connie Mack, dude. This guy takes out Yariel Rodriguez on any day of the week, when you have a man named Yariel Rodriguez going 4 2/3 scoreless against the Yankees, why in God's name are you going to the bullpen? He goes to the bullpen, thinks he has the answer. He doesn't. Guy who he brings in walks 3 straight batters, and then he proceeds to use 7 relievers in a losing effort when he had his starter at 76 pitches, 0 earned runs, 4 hits, and a walk. Could have had him finish the inning. Could have even maybe had him come out for the 5th or the 6th to face one batter to see what happens. I know Rodriguez is a little bit of a different case. Joe Girardi talked a lot about it on the broadcast. He was mostly a reliever. He didn't really pitch much last year at all. They're trying to transition him into a starting role, so they're trying to keep him in that 70 pitch range to make sure that he doesn't go too far over and that he can build a nice base for himself. But, man, gotta let him get that last out. You simply gotta. Like, my God. And then you use 7 relievers after that in a losing effort. I guess good luck this week, man. But, yeah, he's John Schneider to me is the worse meathead version of Aaron Boone, where he's loud and boisterous when he shouldn't be. When he tries to press the right buttons, they're all wrong. Whenever you think he has, or whenever he has a hunch or some sort of an instinct, it always backfires, at least when we're playing them for the most part. Like, man, that made me so happy to watch that game kind of fall through us, because you're watching the Yankees face Rodriguez and you're like, this guy can go 7. I know he's not looking overly impressive, but like, it kind of had Luis Heel vibes because he has iffy control. And I feel like when those guys are pitching, the batters are sitting there and like, I don't know what's coming next. So I guess we'll have to see. And that kind of throws you off as a hitter when you're, someone's dishing 96 at you. Like, I don't know where this ball is going to be. So who knows? Who knows what's next? I think they had that advantage, and I don't think Rodriguez should have went 7, but you let him finish that inning, and I think it's a completely different ball game.
I would agree. It was one of those starts where you're like, why is this happening to me?
Always. Yeah, always.
Shouldn't be. I don't want it to be happening to me, but it was. And congrats on pulling the plug early. Congrats always to John Schneider. Do we want to sign off with a rant on Jason Dominguez? Does that feel like we want to do? I mean, he's
not a rant, just a conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, well, we all know what's going on here. He's 21 years old. If the Yankees can wait till September 1st to call him up, he's still going to have rookie eligibility next year. And there is now a benefit towards maintaining rookie eligibility for a full season, because if somebody were to debut like Dominguez and win the Rookie of the Year next year, the Yankees would get draft pick compensation. I know all of these things that was a system that was put in place to try to encourage earlier promotion so that teams wouldn't hold a Chris Bryant back and manipulate their service time, and they would see a benefit towards them playing a full season. But now, unfortunately, it's falling, it's anti the player here. It's falling in team's corner again, because if the Yankees can maintain Dominguez's eligibility, because his season was cut short last year with the elbow that eventually needed surgery, and his season will be cut short this year no matter what. They want to cut it even shorter. They want him to get the minor league reps. He has been fine since coming back from the oblique. He's been fine. Numbers aren't going to jump off the page. He went 1 for 4 yesterday. It was 4 for 22. So I believe he's now 5 for 26 with 4 RBI and 1 extra base hit since coming back to the Rail Riders. But again, we all know what he's capable of when he's back in the bigs. And he's Brian Cashman said you need to see him knock the rust off, etc. He gave no indication he's even considering the move now when Aaron Judge and Juan Soto need this protection from a guy who's proven to be an intimidator at the big league level. Pretty obvious they're going to wait till September 1st, much like Volpe leadoff and the other things that they waited too long to make. It's probably because they're watching this August baseball being like, we're winning, aren't we? What do we get, style points?
Always what it is, yeah.
Like, what do we get, style points? We have to satisfy everybody? Like, no, we're just going to wait. We're going to wait it out because there's a tangible benefit to waiting. And I get that. But if things turn sour and they stop winning games, then the calls are going to get louder. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Look, I don't agree with the 2 things that were said this year. Earlier, before he went on the IL with the oblique injury, Aaron Boone said there was no lane for consistent playing time. And that's just a lie. Because you need Aaron Judge off his feet some days. You need to bench Giancarlo Stanton not bench, but you need to give him a day off when he's going through those tough stretches. You had a bench of Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis and Oswaldo Cabrera / DJ LeMahieu. all of those players need upgrades in some capacity, and there is lineup flexibility to do that. There just is. You can't tell me there is not. Secondly, now Brian Cashman saying we're happy with what we got. That's a current modern day Yankee problem. You should not be happy with what you have unless it is as close to flawless as it can possibly be. And this Yankees team is not that. They just exited an 11 for 24 stretch, or 11 and 24 stretch. They won 11 of 35 games. That's terrible. That is not a team with World Series aspirations. You cannot go through slides of that caliber. Not saying you can't go. Look, Bryce Harper just went through a 1 for 35 stretch until Friday, I think. If we saw Aaron Judge do that, I'm sure we'd be losing our minds.
Well, the Phillies lost the game. The Phillies are losing games at the same rate we were, and they just lost a game that would have made me tear my body
5-0
pieces. 5-0. Seattle, a team that doesn't hit, 5-1, and then 5-0 in the fifth becomes 5-5 in the sixth. I'm out.
Truly,
Sorry.
We know teams go through this, but if you're talking about stopping the bleeding and making sure that you have the best possible roster in front of you and the most assets to work with on a daily basis, you can't tell me not having Jason Dominguez on this roster is part of the answer. Cashman says he's happy with what they have now. There's still ways to get creative. Option Carlos Narvaez, make Ben Rice the backup catcher. Now you have Jason Dominguez in the fold. Alex Verdugo needs some days off because apparently he's hurt, which is probably a lie. Then Jason Dominguez gets the reps. Aaron Judge needs a day at DH. Great. Giancarlo Stanton's on the bench. Jason Dominguez is playing. Trent Grisham gets the day off. Million ways to go about this. Dominguez does not need everyday reps at this point in his career at the minor league level. He's shown that he can get the best. He's playing lesser competition and lesser talent, and it's not going to be good for his development, at least based on my non-expert opinion. So happy to discuss it more with anybody who is a non-expert and also wants to get in the weeds. But yeah, you look at this and it's you saw what he did for 8 games last year. I understand it wasn't fully the answer. It wasn't fully what was going to happen with how his major league trajectory was going to go, but he brought an offense that was dead back from the dead for 8 days. And he was the starring player for those 8 days. You can't tell me that doesn't hold some sort of weight, and it shouldn't play a factor into the Yankees maybe going even harder after this, current revival. Get him in the fold. Get him 2-3 games a week at the major league level. Maybe it will do him good to get a day off here and there because of his injury situation. That could be an answer at the big league level. Talking with guys like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge every day is going to be good for him. I don't see why him hanging out in Scranton. I understand he hasn't been lighting the world on fire, but he's getting timely hits. He's getting impactful hits. He's driving in runs. That's all we need to see. Get him here. Figure out, let Aaron Boone get a little bit creative if he's even capable of doing that, and this team will be better off for it.
Agreed. Hopefully we see him soon. Still has yet to play at Fenway Park and won't this year during the regular season as well. Isn't that wild? He plays an outsized role in this team's chances of future success. And if they extend Juan Soto, that only increases because that basically completes a really good outfield. So can we just move forward? Can we see both? Can we see him in action? September 1st. If it's September 1st, it is September 1st. But we need him. We need him back. Let's knock that rust off a little bit quicker. We will see all of you later this week with a very special episode running on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Turn on your notifications for the channel. It'll be a live premiere with a special guest. Cat's out of the bag. Jabba Chamberlain is back. Our favorite guest.
What a guy.
The best to talk Yankees 2024 season, post-deadline, and maybe even a little bit about Old Timers Day. I don't know if he's going. It's an 09 reunion in a couple of weeks. So we'll get his thoughts whether he's going or not. And you'll see that on this channel Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock. And we'll be back live next week, next Monday, again at 2 o'clock Eastern. Until then, I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib, Thomas Carannante. Where can the people find you?
At Tommy's _ where's my finger? At Tommy's _ takes.
It's really tough.
We are at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Please like
Yanks Go Yard. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. A lot of content there for you. Thank you guys for reading. We're going to have a lot more. I know August sometimes tends to be a bit of a downturn of a month in terms of news and rumors and all that. But guess what? There's going to be roster questions with expanded rosters coming up. maybe revisit some fun waiver trades that we used to be able to do, ones that particularly screwed us in previous years. But yeah, there's a lot going on. There's still a lot to navigate with this roster, with the starting lineup, any and all of these narratives. And we thank you guys for tuning in. So we'll see you again very soon. Day off today, and then who is it? Angels.
Angels
just beat the Mets.
Yeah,
beat them. I don't know.
Ben Joyce throwing 105. Neto having a good couple of series. Logan O'Hoppe always hits us well.
Yeah.
They're okay. They're all right. Tyler Anderson and Stroman on Thursday for Willie Randolph bobblehead day. I'll be in the building, of course.
Oh.
2 Stromans in a row for me. It is what it is. But hey, no better time to find that groove than the present. And also, whatever happens feels better coming off 3 straight series wins. So go forth, Yankees. Do your thing. Rangers, White Sox coming up. I'll actually be in Chicago for the series finale of that White Sox series. Should I go? Sound off in the comments. Let me know if I should attend that baseball game. I haven't been to that stadium since 1996. I've heard that they've made some changes to the structural integrity. It might be interesting to see. Who knows? But either way, stay tuned to this channel on Thursday. I got something good for you, and then we'll see you live next week. Take care.